Okay, welcome everybody to this new talk show called World Game Changers. And today we have this wonderful guest, our own CEO and co-founder of Grind and Bevy, the man, the myth, the legend, Derek Andersen. Thank you so much, Derek, for being here.
Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've known you like for maybe 2 years now, and I've had the chance to talk to you like in I don't know in the past 2 weeks more than I've ever talked to you in my life. So that's amazing because it's really nice to be able to share my ideas with you and also to know what you've been working on. But today, it's all about you. We want to know your story. We want to know what you're working on. We want to know how Start Grind and Baby started, and that's the whole idea of this talk show. So actually, I mean, I believe that you are the guest that actually doesn't need an introduction.
That's very nice of you, and I've loved working with you and getting to know you and seeing all the amazing things that you're doing and that you and your team are working on. Just by way of quick introduction of what Startup Grind is, about Startup Grind's mission is to educate every entrepreneur and startup in the world, and we do it primarily through events and chapters that we have in more than 100 countries. We've hosted about 15,000 events over the last 12 years, and those events are usually led by a local chapter director who kind of picks up the charge and who is kind of the local representative, and then that person gets great people to come speak, innovators, entrepreneurs, just thoughtful people that have something to share. And, we record those often and we share them online. We have thousands and thousands of videos
Yeah, we do.
of people, some of the very, very best people speaking in the world. So we started it in my office in 2010 with a very small group of people who were just trying to help each other and maybe build companies together. And that's really where things started, is right around the values of giving more than you take, helping others first, and making friends. That's what our community is all about. And anybody that joins, no matter where they are in the world, as long as they have those values, they're welcome to participate. And we're grateful to have been a part of it, and grateful to still be part of it all these years later.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so let's go back in time, 12 years in the past, and tell me how did it all begin? Like, what were you doing at the moment? How did you come up with the idea? Were you working for someone currently? I don't know.
I had quit my job. I had previously worked at Electronic Arts, the video game company, and I had quit my job, decided I wanted to be more creative, wanted to chart my own path. Not too dissimilar from now. It was in a really troubling economic time, and I remember my dad saying, hey, excited for you, but are you sure this seems like a really bad idea? And because there was so much uncertainty in what was going on. And of course, a few years later, everything kind of rebounded and got going again. But so I had left my job and just kind of stumbling around and trying to figure out how to get a startup going. And so I started, a friend and I started hosting events in my office. And there was, 9 or 10 people at the first event. And it was just really about educating ourselves. And I had attended a lot of other events and hadn't found them to be incredibly helpful. And so that's kind of how it started. And it, over the next 2 years, it kind of evolved into sort of what it became. But it wasn't necessarily that way in the beginning. It was just kind of, just a few people getting together, nothing formal, nothing overly planned to be, this huge thing or anything. It was just, just let's educate ourselves and let's get a little bit better. And and so we started hanging out once a month, and people liked it, so we kept doing it.
Wow, that's beautiful. So at this point, did you ever imagine that it would get to, like, I don't know, like you already mentioned 50,000 events already. So would you like ever imagine that you will reach this point?
No, I definitely didn't. And in fact, I never really even understood that other people had the same problem as me. It really took someone who attended one of the events and said, "Hey, can we please do this in Los Angeles?" And I was like, I mean, Los Angeles is a huge city. I was like, "You must have 10 of these." And he's like, "No, we don't." And so that kind of shocked me. But we started doing it and it worked. And then after it worked there, we decided, well, if it can work there, it can probably work in a lot of other places too.
Why the name?
Well, if you are a builder, the grind, I think especially right now, is quite misunderstood. It's a nuanced English word, meaning it has many meanings. And but in popular culture or in sports, to grind is actually a really positive thing. And it doesn't mean, I'm gonna explain what it means by explaining what it doesn't mean. To grind doesn't mean you like work so hard you ruin everything around you. Okay? It doesn't mean, you get your wife to hate you and your kids to hate you, and and you just all you do is work 24 hours a day. That's not what it means to grind. What it means to grind is, it means you're out there taking care of your family. It means you're out there trying to build something, trying to create. You're out there working really hard. And there's incredible satisfaction and benefit to oneself from working very hard and from building and creating something. And so, that's really, the startup grind is, to most people that have done it, they will say that's exactly what it is. It's an incredibly creative, it can be transformative professionally. And it's not about money. It's about being able to own your own time and being able to do the things that your brain and heart think you should work on, versus working somewhere and doing the things that someone else thinks you should work on. So that's, it seemed to me, like it was a hashtag I would use when I would use Twitter in the early days of Twitter. Just say hashtag startup grind. Like I just did this today, or I just worked late, or I did this, or I got this deal done, or whatever. It was just, and so then that became the name, and the name, really resonates with people that are builders. With people that don't build, that don't get it, they think it's very negative, but actually it's actually very positive.
That's so true. And okay, so you started hosting events. What happened next?
We started expanding the chapters, and we went from 1 city to 20 cities pretty fast, maybe in about a year. And there's no real playbook on how to do it, so it's you're just kind of making it up. Then we got to 50 cities in another 6 months. And then, just grew from there, hundreds and hundreds of cities. And you can't, today we say we have about 500 cities, but we've hosted events in about 2,000 cities. So, you're constantly, you're working with volunteers, you're getting people that are, doing other things, and their life changes. So someone in their family gets sick, they run out of money. So you're constantly losing and having attrition with some of the leaders. And so that's just the nature of a volunteer organization. People come and go, and that's okay. You just, it's just part of it. And so it's really hard to grow. It's really, really hard to grow. And we figured out how to do it, and we struck a chord with people and got lucky that people were interested in what we were doing. And, that's really all we focused on for the next 5 or 6 years. And just sort of relentlessly focused on growing the chapters, getting new cities, getting new countries, getting new people exposed to it. And eventually it was across the world.
That's beautiful. What about your second company? In which point of your life you decided to, okay, I'm gonna turn this into a community platform for other companies that want to create communities?
Well, in 2015, because of our growth, we had built a platform from the earliest days, which we built on top of other things like Eventbrite or Meetup or WordPress or MailChimp. Like we
You are the OG community builder.
We glued all the tools together. That's what you do to say, to keep it cheap. But we broke them all. I mean, we broke Eventbrite's API. We used it too much. We were breaking WordPress. We were using it too much. So in 2015, we just said enough's enough. People are yelling at us because the platform's going down all the time. So like, we got to just build our own thing. So we just went in the closet for a year, didn't talk to anyone, and just worked really, really hard. And then we came out in early 2016 with the new platform. And it was pretty rough, honestly, when it first came out, because our first user was this huge, vibrant community. So it's not like you can sort of test with these little things and learn along the way. Like you got to nail it with the big one to start. And so, but after 6 months, the community started to really grow. It was great. And it really helped us grow. So that's how Bevy got started. A year later, we started along the way, started showing it to the people, and they started buying it. And so that was really cool. That was kind of shocking that people would buy our product. And then we got an enterprise customer named Atlassian, who people are probably familiar with. And somehow they agreed to use our software. It was shocking. It was a miracle that they picked us. And we had to onboard them in 6 weeks because they were leaving their other tool. And it worked. They were really happy. So we said, hey, we've got something here. So we spun it out into a new company. I was going to run out of money because we had too many engineers. So I had to raise money in 6 weeks.
Wow.
And then we split the companies in half. And just because Startup Grind we were gonna run out of money for Startup Grind too. It was very, very close to everything, just losing everything. But we were able to raise $1 million, and that was going to get us maybe a year and a half, or maybe a year, and and then we just that got growing and rolling from there. And now a lot of the world's best brands use Bevy to manage and scale their communities.
So what was harder, creating a community or creating a company like Bevy?
I think, getting started with nothing is the hardest part. When you have nothing to draw from, and no one knows who you are. No one cares what you're doing. You don't have co-founders. That part is really, it's so hard. It's so easy to no one blames you when you give up at that stage, because it just is oh, well, no one
doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no one, it doesn't matter. You're just kind of don't exist in the universe, And then, so once you can, if you can, I compare it to being dead on an operating table. And you're the doctor, and you've got to bring this thing to life. You got to get it alive. And once you can get it alive, the body is your startup. You get a heartbeat. Okay, but it's not out of the woods. You got to get this person's eye. You got to get the eyes open. You got to get the fingers moving. You got to get
get them to the ICU.
You got to get them out of the ICU into you got to no one expects you to do that. So at any moment, hey, we're done here. We did the best we could. It's hey, yeah, good try. Go back to your job. So that part's really, really hard. once you have some energy and some momentum going, and people know you and they trust you, and and they've worked with you or whatever, like then you can just build off of that. You can build off that network. You can build off those people and what you've learned. So the earliest stages, the first few years too. I've gone back and looked at my tax returns. It's like crazy. My wife and I sometimes, like, I'll say something to her about it. It's like,
You didn't make any money?
you're living on $10,000-$20,000 in the US, which is very, very hard to do. Like, not making any money, and just why do it? Like, this is insane. You can go get a job, like, and make, like, so it's not just you, it's your family, it's your spouse, your family, like everybody has to be on board with what you're doing, and they have to be patient enough for you to get to where that idea comes alive and can start walking and then running and then contributing to society.
So how long did it take you to like realize that you were reaching that point? Like you feel like, okay, I'm gonna make
it. Years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it took years. Lots of failures. I had a startup that I raised $250,000 for. We launched a product. Nobody bought it. Nobody liked it. Didn't return any of the money. That was a pretty terrible experience. Learned a lot. Had other ideas I put all my money into that nothing happened with them. Did a lot of consulting, just to like pay the bills. It's not very rewarding work. Consulting, it's not very fun. But like we survived. So I mean, it's at some point, I think for me, at some point, when you tell somebody about your idea and they know about it, that's a pretty amazing day. It's like, oh, I've heard of that. Oh, I've seen it. Oh, I've used it. I liked it. Like, you did? It's like, oh, I know Startup Grind. I went to one of your events. You did?
Yeah, that's the feeling. Yeah.
Which one? Sure. And that's what I always say when people say that. So if you did, don't lie, because sometimes people lie. But those first couple of times when people are like, "Oh, I've been to your events. They're great," and I'd be like, "Really? Why? Why do you say that?" Like, I don't want to compliment. I don't understand. Like, I'm trying to understand why you would say that. And, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, this happened. I met this person or this," and that to me was when the magic started to happen. It's like, I've heard of it. I know it. It's, it's the momentum starting to build, and, you can kind of go from there.
Okay. So I have a big question right here. What's your superpower? I remember you asked me this like 2 weeks ago. So
what's yours?
Being your friend. No, I mean, I believe that my superpower is just like being persistent.
Yeah.
And in a way just to like trust my own values and just pursue that in anything that it can like turn into eventually. So that's my superpower. Like I feel like I'm invincible. And actually I have a funny story. When I was studying in Ohio at the University of Cincinnati,
yeah.
One of my best friends, he was like a badass. Like he was like really good at skiing and snowboarding and at everything, And he joined the army and whatnot. But he always was like shouting like supreme confidence. That's it. That's all you need. Supreme confidence. And that actually stuck with me until now. So that's how I feel every time that I have to deal with something. Like it's like, okay, it's all about supreme confidence and just feeling invincible, and eventually you're gonna reach the goal. So that's my superpower. I actually believe in myself every day.
I love that.
But what's your superpower?
I love that. That's an amazing trait. And if so many people don't believe in themselves, and it's easy to not believe in yourself. It's not, it's easy to get discouraged. I still get discouraged, and lots and lots of great things have happened in my life, and I still sometimes think, man, can I do this? Can I actually achieve this? So I think having that confidence in yourself, if you don't believe in yourself, like who's going to believe in you? So that's really a wonderful thing to have. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. So we moved around a lot as a kid. I was in 10 schools in 10 years. I've been through much harder things than my startup. And so, one thing I found is that a lot of success is just surviving long enough to achieve it. It's less about what you do. It is partially what you do. And some people, can get really lucky really fast. But my experience is most people will get lucky at some point over a long period of time. And maybe like one thing I think about is, can I talk about Lionel Messi? Because I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
But you think about Messi, like the guy, it took him 20 years to win the World Cup. 20 years. Like, he's the best football player in the world. And it took him 20 years to achieve like the peak, So like, why should you be like incredibly successful in 3 years or 4 years or 8 years or 10 years? Are you better than him? And you can say, well, he's very successful along the way. He did all these other things. Yes, but like that was his goal. And sports is such a great analogy for life. And in America, there's I look at some of these managers, the coaches, and they coach for 20, 30 years and they win once or twice or never win, There's a guy that won in the baseball, the MLB World Series last year, the manager. He's been he played his whole life, then he managed. He's been a manager my whole life. I can remember being a manager when I was a little kid. And like he barely ever wins. He just won he's old. He's so old. Like, and he just finally won. And I'm like, why are you better than him, Derek Andersen? Are you better than Dusty Baker? Are you better than Lionel Messi? And the answer, of course, is no. So you gotta survive long enough for you to get lucky, long enough for your work to pay off. It takes time. Doctor in the United States takes 8 years just to be able to be a doctor, just to start.
Just to practice.
Just to practice, it takes 8 years. Why should you figure it out in the first year as an entrepreneur? Like, so we all want it now. I want it right now. I want it right now. I want the success. I want it to work. I don't want to go through the failures. I don't want any of the failure. I want all the luck to hit me right now. But the reality is, like, that's not how things work. And if it did, you wouldn't appreciate it, So the only way to appreciate it is to go through the horrible things and to survive. You have to survive. I've met with so many people who had good ideas, who were really smart, but they started to run out of money and they put as an example, they put their wife, their significant other, in a position where they had to say, you have to quit. So if your wife or your husband says, I can't deal with this anymore, like, you didn't do your job as an entrepreneur, and sometimes you can't, it's out of your control.
Yeah.
But like, if you're going to run out of money to the point where your wife says, hey, I'm going to leave you if you don't get a job, which has happened. I've heard of that lots of times. Like, you didn't do your job. It's all these things you got to make sure you get figured out so that you're in a position that you can survive long enough to get lucky.
And yeah, that's actually really hard. I mean, to get
Really
things
hard.
like going at the beginning. Um, do you know, like, I don't know, like what's the craziest or wildest story that you've heard from Startup Grind from someone else?
Crazy story about what? About
I
the
don't know, something happening, like something that was like life changing for anyone within our global community.
that Startup Grind had an impact on?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the craziest story. I mean, I don't know if it's the craziest, but there's two. One is that this guy met his wife at Startup Grind, and they had a kid. So that the child was created only because Startup Grind existed, and
Was it created during the event?
I don't. I better not. Better not. That would break our code of conduct. But the other one is, two Startup Grind directors getting married. People finding each other. I mean, look, there's been so many business successes. Uh, people. One time I had the founder of Postmates come up to me. I was interviewing him at Startup Grind. Postmates is like, food, and it's like a delivery app. They got bought by Uber, but recently, like they were big. And anyways, I was talking to the founder. I was going to interview him. Like, hey, this is what Startup Grind is. He's like, I know Startup Grind. I used to come to these events. He's like, they were super helpful. I'm like, really? You came to our events? I was like,
Why didn't you say hi?
I wish you would have. I wish we would have been closer friends. So I could have invested in your company. But he may have asked me. I don't invest in companies, so he may have offered it, and I had said no, which I made a few mistakes on. But yeah, lots of things along the way. And look, like I chalk my own story up as one of the Startup Grind itself is one of its biggest successes, that it's brought all these people together. It's just completely unimaginable that could have ever happened. And our own company Bevy would have never been created without Startup Grind. And there's 70 people there whose families are existing on the money that we're making, and that business. So yeah, really grateful for all the things. Just super. It's all upside. It's
That's
all
good to hear.
upside.
Oh yeah. So how does your family feel about your success?
Well, like my immediate family, or
Yeah. I mean, your kids, your wife, your parents.
well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much success we've had, but uh, I think they're proud. I think they're proud of the resilience that we've had to not give up, and to see, to take an idea and get it to customers and get people engaged on it. I think they're proud of it.
I
Um,
mean, I believe that you're like a well-rounded person in every way possible. And actually, I've met your kids a few times already, so
mm,
that's wonderful because they are always there, like cheering up for you.
mm,
So I don't
thank
know.
you.
I get that. And actually, like I don't know if you know, but what would your children want to be when they grow up? Do you know that?
Actually, it's funny you asked that. I just asked my older sons this the other day. One is 13 and the other is 11. And they were like, what? I mean, I think they both would like to be professional athletes. Unfortunately, their father is not very tall. Um, but
Well, that's not on you, so you're
yeah,
fine.
that's somebody else's fault. Um, so, well, and maybe this is what you're asking. Sometimes people ask, do you want your kids to be entrepreneurs? And my response to that is always like, do you want your kids to go to war? Like, no. Who wants their kids to go to war? Nobody. So, like, do I want my kids to have to live through being an entrepreneur? No, not really. But if they want to do it, if they want to go to war, I will support them and I'll cheer them on and help them any way I can. But it's not something I would ever force on somebody. And a lot of times people that are really extreme in something, and entrepreneurs are very extreme, the next people, they don't want to be extreme like their parents, you know? So it could be anything. It could be like, you know, extreme. It could be like in a club. It could be in something, you know, like a cause. It could be religious based. Could be lots of different things. Like if you see people that are like go really hard on something, a lot of times their kids, they pull back on whatever that thing is that their parents went hard on. And so I'm not pushing it. If they want to be on, they can be. I want them to be happy. I want them to be healthy. You know, like that's the thing I really hope for them. And you know, if they want to go push and they're, you know, they're not going to get money from us. So if they wanna like, you know, have things in life and push hard, they need to go earn them and work for them. I'm not giving them to them. So, and I've told my little kids, just know you're not getting anything from me except for help. I said, I will help you as much as you want. I'll help you with friends. I'll help you with connections, but I'm not giving you money. I've told that to my 8-year-old. I don't have any money to give them, so this is hypothetical, but you know, at some point, they need to know that like they need to go work for what they want in life. They're not, and I will help them as much as they want. That's me. I think that's my interpretation of being a good parent.
How would you feel if, like, I don't know, like 5 years from now, your oldest would say like, "Hey, Dad, I want to run my own chapter."
Great. Sign up. You have to get approved.
You need to go through the process.
Yeah, you're just like anyone else. I mean, we'll take a look at
it. That's amazing. So if you could go back in time, what would you have done differently?
Oh man.
Everything.
Oh man. I don't like this question. I wouldn't have married someone differently. I'll tell you that. I married the right person. So a lot of good things come from that. You can marry the right person. It's really hard. I got really lucky. So I would keep more the same than I would change.
Is there anything in particular that you were like, I don't know, like 10 years ago, like maybe I should have gone this way instead of this way?
Man, so much. I should have when I graduated from college, I should have gone to work at a startup. And I probably, if I had really tried hard, I probably could have worked at Facebook in the very early years because they were here. I was here. I was here, Silicon Valley. I just kind of ended up in Silicon Valley. I came for an internship here. I had seen, you know, I had heard about it as a kid, or, you know, there was this movie with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates when I was a little kid, and I saw it on TV and I thought it was so cool. That's like what I knew about tech. If I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I should have probably gone to work in a startup. I think it would have been better for me than a big company, but I made really good friends at EA. So like, would I trade those friends for that experience? Is hard. You know, oh man, so many mistakes. I'll be thinking about it all weekend if I start telling you.
I mean, you can always rewatch this.
Here's one. In 2017, I thought I made the biggest mistake I'd ever made. This is the thing about mistakes. And Steve Jobs, in his talk at Stanford, he talks about this, where you can only connect the dots looking back. You can't connect the dots looking forward. And in 2017, WeWork almost bought Startup Grind.
Wow.
Actually, was it 2017? Yeah, it was the summer of 2017. And I was really convinced that it was a great idea. And in the deal process, I messed it up. And it would have happened if I hadn't messed it up. And then it just died. I was kind of a jerk.
Was it something about the term sheet, or
It
maybe
was
just like
it
a
was
bad
the way,
interview?
it was my attitude. It was the way I acted. It was when someone's trying to acquire you, it's as much about they like the asset, but then they have to love the people. And I was kind of given this advice to kind of be hard and to be, kind of just tough and to get the best price. And it's not really how I do deals. I am tough, but I'm not a jerk, And they killed it. They're like, hey, we're not going to work with you. And I was like, no, please, and they're like, no, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And so for like a year and a half, I lose sleep. I'll wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it and how dumb it was and replaying. Why did I do this? Why did I do that? I thought I just ruined it for my family. Anyways, about a year and 3 months later, what happened? WeWork collapsed. So I look at it as like divine intervention. That God helped me get out of my own way. Because if we had been bought by WeWork, I would have lost everything, actually, because most of it would have been stock. And there was this time where I was supposed to go meet with Adam, who was the founder of WeWork. And I refused because I wanted them to get to the place where I wanted them to get to before I would go meet with him. And I was meeting with all the other people. But if I had met with him like they wanted me to, I would have sold it for sure. He's the best salesman ever. We would have done a deal. And I would have lost Bevy. I would have lost Startup Grind. And it would have all gone to WeWork, and it would have been worth almost zero. So, and more importantly, whether the money is the money, but I would have lost all the things that have come from those projects, all the learnings, all the relationships, all that stuff. So, but it took like a year and a half to see it. And even still, now I can talk about it. Like it's a funny story, but it was so much pain. And there are things right now, not that, but other things right now that I just can't talk about that are very painful, right? It hasn't been enough time. And I can't connect the dots yet. And so I think maybe someone can relate to that. Maybe you can relate to that, of like things that you've seen that really hurt, but actually helped you with the next steps. And that experience with WeWork helped me with so many other deals that have come. I totally changed my perspective on how to do those kinds of partnerships. And that's been really helpful. And so, maybe the pain and learning from that was absolutely necessary. That step was necessary to get to this step.
Wow. So did you watch the We Crash series?
Oh, love it. Anything about WeWork, I it's like drugs to me. I don't do drugs, but if I did, I could assume it would be like how I consume WeWork content. I love all of it. I love all the stories. I've read the books, everything. Yes. And I would have had those stories. I would have been part of the story, but I don't want to be part of the story. I'm happy to not be part of the story.
So which movie star could have played Derek Andersen?
Movie star. The interesting thing about that show is the other co-founder, Miguel. He's actually an incredible guy, and there's never anything negative said about him. No one ever says anything bad about him. And he's a great guy. And my experiences with him were great. He's a really amazing person. I never met Adam, but all the stories, they're true. All the stories from the show, they just ripped off all the real stories. It's crazy. So anyways.
That's an amazing story. Okay, so we are almost at the end, and I would just love for you to tell us about the global conference that we're going to have in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, thank you. April 11th and 12th in the heart of Silicon Valley in Redwood City, California. We'll have, like we've had for 10 years, every year, we'll have some of the very best founders and investors and startups meeting and talking and getting to know each other and helping each other. And people like the founder of Notion, Olympic athlete. She's maybe the best U.S. female sprinter of all time. Her name's Allison Felix. Vinod Khosla, who's one of the best investors ever, and many, many others are going to be speaking at this event. And so love to have anybody that can come say hi. Love to meet you.
That's awesome. Okay, so my last question is: could there be a global conference without Derek Andersen?
Yes, 100%. Actually, one thing hopefully I need to go look now that I say this, but like Startup Grind's not about me. So I'm part of it. I help push it ahead. I help make sure there's money in the bank to fund things, but it's really about the people. It's about the community. It's about the chapter directors. Like that's what Startup Grind is. And so, I hope it can survive long past me, but I never have seen myself as the face. I know some people do, but it's about all of the faces of all the people. And so, hopefully you don't see my face too much when you go to the website. That's not the point.
I mean, you're always there, but yeah, I was thinking about this a few days ago. Like, how would it be like Startup Grind without Derek or without like the HQ team, or how it's gonna be like 20 years from now? So that's something that I was thinking about. But yeah, I mean, as long as we like take care of our values, everything's gonna work out, and there's always gonna be the next Derek, the next Guillermo, the next like I don't know, like character in our story that is gonna take over and make it work for us in a way.
Very well said.
Derek, thank you so much for your time, for being here, for sharing with our community. And I believe that this experience is probably the best one that I've ever had with you. I mean, it was really fun. And thank you so much for your time, for your stories, and for everything you do. Because what you do is having a great impact in South America, especially here in Guayaquil, Ecuador. And people really, really, really love Startup Grind right here. And that's all thanks to you.
And that's thanks actually to you. So thank you, and thanks for all you're doing. It's super inspiring to me, the career that you're building and the people that you're helping. And no, none of that is actually possible without you and the work you're doing. And I know it's having a huge impact. So thank you so much, and thanks for including Startup Grind and all the amazing things you're working on.
Perfect. No, I appreciate that. And once again, thank you so much. I'll see you in 2 weeks. And I hope to see everyone that's watching this at this moment also at the global conference.